All right, so we got Jeremy Menard here, aka SoAppalled on ACR, aka Endless J from back in the day. Jeremy's been crushing it on ACR these last few years. He's up over a half a million since 2018 on ACR alone, and he has a total of 8 million in winnings online in his poker career. That's a pretty incredible feat, coming up on 10 million pretty soon. What's up? You just won a big tournament.
What's up, man? Yeah, I was lucky enough to have a nice finish to the year. It's been a battle this year for
Okay.
sure on the
Life of a
online poker
tournament player.
felts.
Yeah. So you won the 1K. How much was first? Okay,
$112,000.
that's a pretty big 1K. Awesome. So you said it was a kind of a grind of a year. Tell me about it. How's it been? How's your year been?
Yeah, so just the entire year just seems like that up until this point, like these past few years have been going pretty smoothly, kind of grinding out like a expectation around what I was expecting. But I think over this past year, online poker has really evolved at a really quick rate because of all the solvers, because of all I would also say the European presence on the main site that I play on, ACR. I think it's changed pretty dramatically as far as the skill level. So this year is not been as easy as some of the other years. So to finish the year in a fashion like that with a nice six-figure score was something that I was very excited
And
to have
you've
happen.
been on a pretty big tear. I was looking at your stats on SharkScope. I'll pull them up. So since 2018, you're up about half a million, 560K on ACR alone, over 6,000 tournaments. So that's pretty sick. You've been pretty consistent there. What do you do to stay consistent? Like you've been playing since as far as when I first started too, like 15, 16 years ago. I guess tell us about that journey. Like I know you were like doing really well early on. I don't kind of know exactly how the middle of your career was. Like tell us about your journey and how that's been, like what's changed for you.
Okay, so yeah, it's been quite a journey for me. I've been in this professional poker career for about 15 years now. At the start, it was all rainbows and butterflies. I think the game but was just a lot easier back then. If you put much effort into understanding the game, then it was a lot. It wasn't that difficult to show a profit at the end of the year, that's for sure. But
Yeah.
as things developed, like there was more and more training sites that were out there, the general population became better. There were definitely points in my career where I was realizing that I was kind of falling behind the
Mm,
curve, and my results would show that. So there would, when those times occurred, I would reach out to friends, I would reach out
mm,
toward training sites, all these various options that are out there, and try to figure out what's causing me to be hitting
yeah.
this mental speed bump or whatever. And I've
Who
had a
were
few of
some of
those
who
along
were
my
some of
career
those
where like
friends? Who were some of those friends that you reached out to or that have kind of you talk poker with or any of that stuff?
uh you
Yeah. Yeah.
obviously I talked with Mohsen Charania quite a bit throughout. Chris Mormon has always been one of my good friends that I've talked through as well. So a lot of friends that have had some very solid results in poker and yeah, it's nice to surround yourself with people that are, better than you or like
Yeah.
on that same level
And
as
how
you
do
where
you
you can
like do
bounce
you
ideas and you feel like you can get like you can have their feedback come in and
yeah.
really feel like that it's going to provide you with like something where you might not be thinking of the game the same way as they're thinking of it, and like because you can all bounce your ideas off each other, it was really helpful. And that's what poker was back then, was just like talking with groups of people that you
Yeah,
felt like were kind of at the same
exactly.
level as you. But everything has kind of just ratcheted up in the past few years with all the artificial intelligence solvers and just like all these tools out there that are now available that if you take advantage of, you can really start to get your career to a place you want to be. And for me, like there was a point around maybe 2016, 2017 where like I hadn't been in the game as long right after Black Friday. I hadn't been studying as much. I think that was like 2011. I basically was just playing with like United States competition, and I don't know if you guys know, but like for the most part, the Europeans are putting more effort and more time into learning the game than a lot of the United States players are, especially online. So I was falling behind the curve. And when I had a few friends point out to me, like, these are some tools that you should be using, I started using those to my best advantage. And then around the time the ACR started becoming a really big thing where like they were, I think like maybe 3 years ago when they were really trying to like ramp their site up,
Yeah,
was when I was really like starting to get into a point where I was feeling like I was well above the population. And it showed like back then there was like some really steep upswings in my game, and obviously some of that is variance as well. But yeah, I mean, generally
yeah,
throughout my career, there have been times where I've realized like something's happening where like the population's getting better, I'm not making as much money, and now it's time to really put my
yeah,
nose to the grindstone, study, see what else is out there, ways to like make my game better.
yeah,
And I'm going to be honest, like there's been times throughout my career where I've also felt like I was a little bit like stagnant and just
yeah,
like not sure if
for
I wanted
sure.
to continue going down the poker path because it wasn't as intriguing to me. It wasn't as exciting, but then like something would come out, like the solver started like
Yeah,
in like 2017, and I was like, oh, this is a really cool toy to play with, to like
yeah,
kind of
yeah,
figure out the game and look at the game in a different way. And that reignited my passion for poker around
yeah.
2017, and that was when I started going back on like a point where I felt really solid where I was at, and I was doing really well in relation to the population.
Yeah, when you
And
find like a new program or like some new edge that you realize people are behind, it's just, I don't know, it's just fun. It's just like, 'cause it's a competitive game and you're trying to outcompete, outstudy your opponents or whatever it might be. You said a bunch of things I actually want to unpack. So let's start with the friends thing, right? So you said, talk with Chris Moorman, myself, Mohsen Trani, I'm sure plenty other people as well. A lot of people don't have those relationships, don't have those friendships. I think it's even harder these days with just people a little less social and stuff like that. So I guess two questions. One is someone who doesn't have those relationships and they're going to these tournaments or playing online, like how can they start to create those bonds? And then the second question I have is once you do have those friendships, like what do those like you said you talk hands and get advice. Is this like a WhatsApp group you're talking with, a Discord group, or like what formats do those take place in?
well, it used to happen so long ago that it was like over AIM, over Skype,
Yeah,
like various like online formats. And then we would meet up in person during like various series, like the World Series, and we'd use that time to also discuss hands.
like on breaks and during
Nowadays,
breaks. Yeah.
yeah, nowadays with like the pandemic and just the way that poker is nowadays, I don't think that there's that much camaraderie, and it's difficult, like especially with the people coming up, there might be like an age gap where they're like the young group coming in, and like people like me, people like Mormon, like they see us as like people that are unapproachable because
Mhm.
we've been in the game for so long, like we have this like they put us on a totem pole, whatever. But honestly, like if you respect somebody's game, if you message them, you probably could like find some way to get
Yeah.
coaching from if like somebody in your world that like really impresses you in poker, you think that they have talent, like they might be willing to work with you, they might be willing to talk with you, you never know. Just
Yeah.
don't be
I think,
scared to like go up and like say hi, like i've
yeah.
i've always like been impressed by your game, like we're just people, we're really
Yeah. Yeah.
approachable, like don't.
I think well, one thing that's tough, and there are solutions to this, is it's just natural that like people want to talk poker with other people that are similar to their level, right?
This
Because
is
if you're
true,
just
yeah.
way ahead of someone, it's like it's just such a one-sided, like you're helping them, you're not getting anything out of it.
Yep.
Not that everyone's selfish, but you just can't help everyone, right? So I think a couple of things. I think A, like the more you kind of are friendly at the table and like go out to these dinner breaks with people, go to these community meetups, you'll meet people that are similar level to you. And
Hmm.
also sometimes there are people that are higher level to you, but you can offer them some help. Like maybe they need someone to run solves for them. Um, like even if you go get someone coffee, like just do whatever you can that helps them, and then they'll be willing to help you back. Like that's how a lot it works in a lot of startups as well. And eventually you work your way up, and then you're all able to contribute on an equal level.
Yeah.
Um, yeah,
Yeah.
we have a Discord group at Jaka Coaching. Um, so a lot of people who don't have those friends, we encourage get in the Discord group. We have community meetups at the WSOP, at the Hard Rock events, at the Win. That's a good way to meet people. So anyone out there who struggles with that, definitely like get into these communities. For anyone who doesn't already know, Jeremy is one of our guest coaches on jakacoaching.com. He does a lesson every month. Yeah, tell us like what are you normally teaching in our lessons, just to kind of give the viewers a little background on that.
I mean, I'm willing to cover anything that the students are asking for, basically. Like
Yeah,
we poll our students, we see what they're interested in doing. Just recently, I did a session that was focused on the small blind versus big blind dynamic. I think a lot of people have a pretty misconstrued idea of how to play blind versus blind. And I try to focus on using GTO tools to teach like the most appropriate and most optimal way of playing. Obviously, you can make deviations from that based on your opponents and all of that. But yeah, I generally like to focus on very specific parts of the game. Like to do like a 2 hour session and let everybody ask their questions
yeah,
while also providing as much information as you possibly can get. Show some examples of hands that I play, real hands that I play that I have played in the past, and just talk through my thought process so that you guys can hear how somebody that's been in the game as long as somebody like me thinks about these type of situations. And yeah, I agree with you as far as the Discord community goes. Like that's something that is really helpful for people that are coming into the game because they don't know who to reach out to. And in this community, you will have people that are all kinds of different skill levels. You can find somebody that's around that same skill level as you, bounce ideas off them, maybe meet some people. You can have
yeah,
meetups live after that. Like it's a great jumping board to like get yourself into the community of poker in general. And sure, you can also ask questions, and people like me and Faraz will be happy to provide answers with your hand history questions. But it really is like a way for people to come together and meet each other in poker and meet people that are on the same level as them, and like find some friends that you might end up being friends like 10 years down the line. Who knows?
yeah.
And
I've met some of my best friends like from like an online forum, and then we met up at an event in the future, and now they're like at my wedding. It's just like,
yeah, yeah,
yeah.
exactly.
Those of you who are interested in joining Discord group like that, Jeremy's actually in the hand history channel answering people's questions. He pops in throughout the week, so that's another benefit. You get to get responses from a sicko like Jeremy. Um, cool. So yeah, we went through a little bit of your background. A question I want to ask you. There's a lot of this chatter about. I get a lot of people ask me like, "Hey, like you play on ACR so much, like, can you really win on there? Like, what do you think about the bots? I hear there's these bots problems. Like, what can you tell us about the bots and how you think about that, and does it affect you or your game or your willingness to play there?
So my thought process is that the bots issue was something that was a pretty big issue a few years back. From my understanding, ACR has done a lot to go through the whole field of players and find ways to identify the bots and remove them from play, whether that's like from the specific hand history that's reported or something. From my understanding, bots aren't as big of a deal now as what they were a few years ago.
That's my
Um,
understanding as well.
a
Yeah.
thing that is a little bit more of a big deal now is the RTA and people potentially being able to use solvers while they're playing. I generally don't think that that's happening at the smaller mid stakes levels. And I
Mhm.
would think a very, very small group of players maybe doing that in the higher stakes levels. It's obviously a situation where you want to feel like the playing field is level, and I think that for the most part that is 100% the case on ACR. It's impossible for them to find every single person out there
Yeah.
that might be using some kind of RTA to help them out in their game. But at the end of the day, like I don't think that's like robbing us of a significant amount of EV
Yeah,
personally.
the way I think about it is like it's the cost of doing business. Like there's always going to be some level of theft if you own a Walgreens or a convenience store, but that doesn't mean you
Right.
like don't go into business. It means like, all right, like your ROI is supposed to be like 18%, instead it's 16% or 17%, but it's not cutting it so much that it's not worth playing. That's how I personally think
Yeah.
about it.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think
I
that
also
it's
think
it, it's something that
I think
is going to happen. Sorry,
I
go
think
ahead.
anything like collusion bots, just cheating in general, it's also a much bigger issue in higher stakes, small pools.
Yep.
It's hard to get at the same table as your people you want to cheat with if you're in a 500-person tournament. It's a lot easier if you're in like a 30-person tournament.
Exactly.
So those are ways you can kind of minimize your exposure to that kind of risk as well. But
Yeah, I totally agree. I think that the highest stakes are where they stand to make the most money from cheating, and obviously there's a risk involved in cheating, so it doesn't really make as much sense to be cheating in like an $11 tournament or something like that.
there's a lot of people that cheat that are try to cheat that are just bad. Like they're so bad at poker that they just don't know how to cheat well.
Right.
And most cheaters are pretty bad at poker, and you got to be decent at poker to know how to cheat well too.
Yeah. Yeah,
It's
as a
like
whole, like,
casinos don't mind people trying to count cards because most people lose money counting cards. So it actually net profits them in the long run.
right. Yeah, I don't think it's as big of a problem as it's been made out to be. Sure,
Yeah.
it is an issue and it is going to cost us some amount of money, but the amount of money it's costing us isn't anywhere near
Yeah.
what some people might
I
think it
agree. I mean,
is.
I've just been able to coach so many people from like losing players to winning players that are recreational players. And I have so many friends like yourself, that are just like doing so well on ACR consistently. It's just like that wouldn't be possible if if that was the case. I want to ask you about what are the tools that you use, or how do you keep your game? So you mentioned kind of talking with friends and stuff like that. What are the tools and self study you do to stay on top of the game?
Okay, so I use a variety of tools now. I started off with PO Solver back in
Mhm.
like 2018. I feel like I was one of the first ones, like on the American site specifically, that was really doing a lot of solving. Um, and basically now that there's other versions that are a little bit quicker, and GTO Wizard is something that I had been referenced by another friend about a year ago, and I started using that a little bit more frequently. And
That
over the
tool is
past
so
like
revolutionary.
it's
Like it's
unbelievable. It really is
yeah,
like because PO Solver was great. It gave you the answers, but it took like 20 minutes
yeah,
sometimes to run a sim. Sometimes it took
yeah.
even longer depending on the stack sizes, the amount of the what the ranges of each player, and if the wider the range, the longer it took. Now on GTO Wizard, you can run a sim in a minute. You can run a sim in less than a minute, and it's incredible, especially if you want to like go through and really look at like all these various parts of your game and like all these different boards. Like you can do a lot. The amount of studying that it would take like probably like a week to do on PO Solver, you can do in a day
Yeah.
on GTO Wizard,
Well,
maybe
what
even
I
a few
love
hours.
is I could run a hand like, okay, what would I do? Cut off first big blind on this board at 30 big blinds deep, and then I don't have to re-put in everything. I could just change 30 to 70 big blinds, and it just tells
Right.
me like the difference. So I don't have to redo everything. So that's huge.
Yep.
I
Yeah, and
think
you can
GTO
just like
Wizards,
change ranges. So basically, you can go from like an under the gun open to like a button range, and it
yeah,
automatically adjusts the ranges for you instead of you having to
yeah.
change the range yourself, which is
I think
really
it's a
helpful.
must-have tool. I've been really passionate about it to my students. So a lot of our students are using it. We did get a group discount for all our Jaka Coaching students. I will put that link in the bottom of this YouTube video. So if you do want to check that out, you could even just make a free account there because you get a lot of access to some free stuff to check it out. And if you do decide to do like a paid account, you can get like a 10% discount there. So definitely check that out. So you were using a lot of Pile Solver. Now you do sometimes. You're using a lot of GTO Wizard.
Yep.
I assume you're using pre-flop charts to study
Yeah,
a little bit.
pre-flop charts, but those are just already like integrated into GTO Wizard now, and
Yeah,
I think you
yeah.
can just like get the pre-flop stuff for free on GTO Wizard without even having a subscription, which is pretty
Yes,
awesome.
I think you're right there. A free
Yeah,
account.
Holdem Resources Calculator is another tool that I think is invaluable for
Must have.
players that play specifically online, because it allows you to look at the all the push fold situations specifically, but then you can also look at more advanced situations for final tables where like somebody raises and you look at the range of like hands you should be shoving with, looking at the range of hands that they should actually be calling with. And I feel like it like blows people's minds because they don't realize how tight you're supposed to be in so many spots at final tables. And the more simulations you run on Hold'em
Yeah.
Resources Calculator, the more you're able to like have a better idea of how to approach final
And it's
tables in
actually
general.
pretty easy to run the hands there because you could
It's
just cut and paste the hand history,
right.
which a lot of people don't realize. So I have a lesson on Jaka Coaching about calling reshoves where I show you how to use Hold'em Resource Calculator. So if anyone needs help with that, if you're kind of a recreational player, I don't advise you get hardcore into programs, and I
Right.
only recommend the easy ones. But like GTO Wizard and Hold'em Resources are very easy programs to use.
Yeah.
Um,
And PO
yeah,
Solver was not quite as easy, I
yeah,
would say.
and I
But
don't think you
like,
need to learn to use them like all at once. But maybe like after you've done a lot of studying and you're in a good routine, eventually it does make sense to maybe learn one of those tools. Yeah,
right. And I mean, there's plenty of videos out there to kind of walk you down that path of how to use the thing. It's not quite as intimidating as it seems like it is. Literally, if you watch a video, you could be running your own sim in like 15 minutes after the video. I think confidently I can say that. It's that easy to do as soon as you have like a few a few pieces of information from somebody that really knows what they're doing. But yeah, I would agree. I think Holdem Resources Calculator and GTO Wizard are two of the most important programs that I personally use in my game and have really taken me to the next level.
Cool, man. Well, before I let you go, what is 2023 looking like for you? Like, what's your kind of grind schedule? How often do you grind? What are you kind of playing? What's your plan this year?
Yeah, so I think my schedule this year is going to be a lot more focused around um, getting the kind of frequencies that I'm looking for in my database. I really want to like increase my win rate so that it's like a clear and obvious. I mean, win rate is something you can't get away from, right? Like that basically is telling you exactly how you're playing. It's not the results, it's not the money. It's like basically letting you know exactly what you're trying or what you're accomplishing. With all the ways that you're approaching poker. And that's probably one of the most important things to me is getting my win rate up, getting some. I mean, obviously, I'd like some like high like venom type scores, but like at the end of the day, I think just like having consistent scores and feeling like that my game is continuing to increase and go in the
Yeah.
right
How
direction and
often do
feeling
you play? Like during like how many days a week do you play?
I play probably between 3 and 4 days a week normally, and usually it's like a schedule from like 11 to like, because I'm on Pacific time, probably like 11 a.m. to like around 10 p.m. most days. So it's a pretty long grind of a day, but
Speaking of the database stuff, Jeremy does great hand history database reviews, and he does one-on-one coaching. So if anyone is interested in that, you can totally reach out to Jeremy. What's the best way for people to reach out to you?
you can reach out to me on Discord, and yeah, you can even reach out to me on like Instagram at Menarded. But yeah, I think Discord is probably
Okay,
one of the best options.
we'll leave some of that information in the description on the YouTube video, the invite to the Discord, then you could reach out to Jeremy directly there or anything
Hmm.
else you have questions on. So awesome, man. Thanks for joining us. We're going to have a free event coming up where Jeremy is going to review all the hands from his 1K win that he just had last week. What day did we land on that event being? January 11th at 5 p.m. PST. We will doing a free event. All you got to do is have a Jaka Coaching free account, which we can link you to at the bottom. It's going to be a super sick event. We don't do free events like this very often. This is going to be the first time Jeremy's ever done one for free. So if you want to see kind of what it's like learning from him, join that event. And yeah, thanks for joining us, Jeremy, and good luck in 2023. Hope you have
Thanks.
continued success with this recent run you're having.
Thanks a lot, man. I appreciate it. Yeah, it's going to be a big year. Hopefully,
All
it's
right,
big for both of us, man. Let's
let's
get
do
out
it.
there and
Let's
crush
do it,
it.
buddy. Let's do it.
All right.
Thanks for joining us, Jeremy.
Thanks for having me, Faraz.
All right, cool. Awesome. That was good stuff, man.
All right. Yeah,
All
I
right,
feel
cool.
good. If there's anything that like doesn't sound as good when you go back and you're editing it, obviously, like you can just hit me up and
Yeah.
I'll wear the exact same thing. It'll be like
All right, cool. Yeah,
it'll
no,
be
I think
super
that's
easy
pretty
to do.
good. Yeah, awesome, cool. Anything else we need to figure out? Stop this recording.